Wonderful brothers and sisters, it is something very, very, very shocking to note that a country where there is radical Islamism, that is where the Lord actually is converting people into his gospel. And I was so shocked because I couldn't even believe. Even you can see in these videos, they've put it in a blood form because they don't want the images of these people to be seen. This is actually in Iran. Thousands and thousands of people are being baptized, into Christianity. And that is a shock, how the Lord is actually preparing this land for his gospel. How the Lord is preparing this land for his gospel. Thousands and thousands of people, of Iranians, are actually being baptized. They are receiving the gospel. And I was shocked that in Iran, we have Christians in Iran, a place, the land of Ayatollah Khamenei, the land of one of the strongest Islam, and the radical Islam. That place, the Lord is actually saving his people. He is calling his people. And I was shocked because that is an indicator. As a Latter-day Saints, the Lord will always prepare the word before he restores his gospel to that land. He always prepares the land. And I see Iran as one of the lands that the Lord has chosen for the gospel, for his gospel. Because remember one thing, that every year, the gospel of Jesus Christ must sweep every year. It must penetrate every continent, sweep every country and sound in every ear, until the purposes of God shall be accomplished and the great Jehovah shall say, the work is done. And I think this country called Iran is actually being swept by the gospel. It will be swept by the gospel. It is just being prepared. And that's why you realize there is that awakening. People are realizing we need to receive Jesus. We need to make our life straight with Jesus. It's an awakening because the Lord prepares a land before he actually establishes his gospel there. And you can see what people are really going through. Without further ado, let us just listen from the CBN News here. What exactly is happening?
Reports say tens of thousands of mosques in Iran have closed, with millions of people leaving Islam to follow Jesus. What on earth is happening? Well, Houman Khalili, who was born in Iran to a Muslim family, is here with the overwhelming details. So, my brother, paint us an accurate depiction of what's happening in Iran.
So, Raj, thanks for having me. Yeah, right now what's happening in Iran is there is incredible unrest. For the last 40 years since the Islamic regime has been running the show, the people of Iran have just been miserable. The economy has been rough. The amount of suppression has been brutal. Every cent that the Islamic regime gets or is able to raise from other countries or from the United Nations, they use it for terrorism for all around the world. Never forget, the Islamic regime is the #1 sponsor of terrorism. They fund Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, the Houthis.
So it is actually opposite, Like you look at what the U.S., the U.S. is doing, like they use amounts to alleviate poverty in countries, ensuring that countries are taken care of. They help with technology, they help with education, they support, healthcare and all that. That is the U.S. and other countries who are, let me say, NATO. And at the same time, you listen here, you realize that Iran is using its money to sponsor terrorism all over the world, which is actually opposite of what other countries are doing. Very opposite. So what does it tell you? There's something very fishy and something very big is cooking. And these are some of the things that people need to take note.
It is just an endless well of difficulty and misery. On top of that, they're building the drones for Russia to attack Ukraine. So right now, the people are rising up in a way that nobody seems to have expected. It has a staying power that none of the other revolutions of the past 40 years have had. And it's all led by the women. The women of Iran are running the show, and they're saying enough is enough.
The women.
So if you look at some of these reports online, they're almost hard to believe. So I wanted to make sure that there was some, it wasn't just one or two. But there are these reports kind of all over the place. And, here's one from All Arab News basically saying that a senior Iranian cleric said that between 50 and 75,000 mosques have closed, which is just a staggering statistic. So why are so many Iranians in this, chaotic season that you've pointed out, rejecting Islam and following Jesus?
Yeah, so the mosques closing really started when the women rejected wearing the hijab. Mosques were closing, but not at this infinite rate. And when the people started seeing the women of Iran getting shot in the head, blinded, lashed publicly, hung in the streets, the people are like, enough of Islam, enough of this death. And so that's really the main reason. And so right now, this is a rejection of Islam in Iran. This is a rejection of the Islamic regime. But the biggest problem in Iran is only the bad guys have guns. If they would arm the people, if America or some country would arm the people of Iran the way they arm Ukraine, there would be a power shift overnight. But you've got 90 million people, 1 million of them probably with guns, 89 million of them without guns. And so it's an entirely unfair battle.
Okay, so you have come to find and follow Jesus, and so the question that I'm wondering is, are the reports true that kind of rejecting everything that you're talking about, that millions, and that's the report, millions of people are coming to Yeshua? Is that an accurate statement?
I believe it is, yeah. In a country of 90 million people, the estimates are there are 10 million hidden Christians. Wow. Now, Iran kills more Christians than anywhere in the world because the Quran says if you leave the Islamic faith, you have to be put to death. And so you do have reports of Persians shouting in the streets, I've accepted Jesus into my life, and that's it for them. And so, the whole book of Esther takes place in Iran. It doesn't take place in Israel.
Yeah, sure.
And what does the word Hadassah mean? It means hidden.
Hadassah.
And so in the spirit of the book of Esther and Esther's life, the Persians have to remain hidden as Christians in Iran. And if they get caught, there are organizations like Transform Iran that do sneak them out and hide them in other countries.
So, I think this is just an amazing thing that God's up to, from, the fact that you're having not just a trickle, but a surge of people in Iran seeing Jesus in their dreams. And it's just, mosques are closing left and right. Now, you were born in Iran. How did your family come to know Jesus?
Yeah, so everyone saw that the revolution was about to happen. And 6 months before the revolution, my mom went to my dad. A woman has to get written permission from her husband or father to travel to this day. And my dad gave it and said, we need to leave our country. He didn't want to leave, so I don't know my father at all. And then we came to the San Francisco Bay Area. My mom got a job cleaning hotel rooms, and we lived in the back room. And one day we were sitting in a sandwich shop, like a Subway. And this old man was listening to us speak, and he leans over and he says, I detect an accent. Where are you from? And my mom says, we're from Iran. And he says, oh my goodness, are you okay? Because he just watched Iran collapse on television. And she says, yeah. And he says, are you alone? And my mom says, yes. And he says, what's your name? My mom says, Zara. He says, Zara, my name is Ed. And if you ever want a family or a community, please come to my church.
Wow.
And my mom says, oh, okay, because at the time we're Muslim. And he says, will you come one day? And my mom says, sure, I'll come one day. And he shakes her hand and he leaves. About 6 months pass, and my mom, we had a post office box. My mom was at the post office checking, and she steps outside, and within like 5 seconds of stepping outside, she hears, Zara, 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 Zara. She looks, she goes, oh my gosh, it's the old man from the sandwich shop. And she says, yes, yes. And he says, Zara, you're here, you're at church. She goes, what do you mean? I was checking my... And he says, look, and the church was 100 yards away from the post office. Whoa. He says, come in. And we walk in, and within like 5 minutes of being there, 30 people surround us, and they say, who are you? What can we do for you? How can we pray for you? My mom says, you know, we need a green card. And they said, all right, we're going to start praying. And the church, 1,000 white Republican Americans start praying for 2 Persian Muslims.
Wow.
And then my mom got a job cleaning a wealthy woman's home in a fancy town in the Bay Area. And the woman says to my mom, you know, what did you used to do in Iran? My mom said, I was an accountant. She goes, my goodness, I need an accountant. You want to come work for me? My mom ran back to the church and said, your prayers work. Jesus is real. We want to be Christians.
Wow.
And it was through that woman that we got our green card.
Wow. The way that God is just, it's so good to see how Yeshua meets every single person where they are, where they need to be met. Praise God. Thank you for sharing your testimony. There's so much more we could talk about, and we're going to do more videos. But in this, let me ask you one last question. How should people watching this be praying for the church in Iran?
Well, there are a handful of organizations, and I think the very best way to not only pray for them, but would be to reach out to one of them. Now, I have a bias because I'm on the board of an organization called Transform Iran, but there are a bunch of, and so I would recommend just doing a Google search. Just type in underground church in Iran or Jesus in Iran, see what pops up, do a little bit of reading, and just reach out to any of them. And at the very least, just write them and say, how can we be praying for you?
Wow. So that is what is happening in Iran. Like some countries, it is not a play in the park just to worship freely. It's not a play in the park. Just worship freely. And recently I heard one of the politicians was saying that the rate at which Islam is coming into the country, we need to be very, very careful. We need to be very, very careful because these people are no joke. They are no joke. Once you give them a leeway, that's it. And your country is destroyed forever. And you can see, if Christians can hide, if they say Islam is a good religion, if they say Islam is a good religion, it means peace, as the word is. Islam means peace. But why is it that most Muslim-dominated countries are not peaceful? You know, they are not peaceful. I don't understand why. Okay, somebody will mention to me Indonesia. Indonesia, there is a way we know why they are peaceful there, even though the larger capacity of people are Muslim. But Indonesia, their thinking, their capacity, and the way they are running things, they've allowed democracy, and it is not Sharia law that governs Indonesia, even though majority are Muslims. It's democracy. But at times you will be shocked. Why? Like you look at Sudan, you know, just within Africa. Look at these countries that are very much unstable. You will find there is an element of Islam behind it. Islam. You know, what exactly is wrong? What is exactly the problem? But I've been with Muslims. They are very good people. Some of them are good friends of mine We've done business with them. Some of them we've been in the same schools. They reason just normally. But you wonder the kind of radicalization that happens in these so-called Muslim-dominated countries. You'd be shocked. You know, you'd be shocked. Like recently you realize that Nigeria, in the northern part of Nigeria, some of the Fulani people, a tribe that is just Muslim, they don't want other people who are not Muslims. And they end up killing Christians there. You are shocked. You wonder. But look at places where Muslims are and where Christians are the majority. They've accommodated everyone. They've allowed Islam to practice their way of religion freely. And they are not even bothered. Look at the United States. How many Muslim refugees they've taken? Quite a number. Look at the UK. Muslims are quite a number. But look at the Saudi Arabia. Look at these Muslim countries. How many refugees have they taken? Even their very own people who are actually running from, what we call the Gulf. The refugees from the Gulf. None of the Muslim countries can take any of the refugees from the Gulf area. But they are the noisemakers. They are the noisemakers. But you wonder what exactly is happening with this religion. There's something wrong about this religion. To me, personally, I think there is something wrong about them. Something wrong. How do you mistreat or kill women simply because they've refused to put on hijab and something that it is not well explained even in their very own Quran? It's not well explained. Because when you speak of a covering, the Lord has revealed it that women were given their hair as a covering, not just clothes. Okay, there is a sense of dressing modestly and all that stuff. But there is also what we call agency. But what exactly is happening? That is my thinking, my wonderful brothers and sisters. And I know to my Muslim friends outside there, I do not actually mean to pick any offense with anybody's religion. But that one has been my observation. That everywhere you go where there is a Muslim-dominated a country, there is always problems. And you wonder what exactly is happening. And in fact, in discrimination, they are champions in discriminating people. Champions in discriminating people. But when it is done to them, they are so loud. They are so loud. And that's why, to me, I think President Trump should just be there forever. Trump is the man. He knows how to manhandle such a people. I see some of them, the way they behave in our country here. You'll be shocked. Like in Kenya, we are very peaceful people. Because that is what culture has taught us. We are very welcoming people. And our forefathers have always told us that welcome visitors. Do not let a visitor suffer in your country. Welcome them. If you find somebody has nowhere to sleep, he has nowhere to go, and is a stranger, invite them in your house. Let them sleep, so that the following day they can continue with their journey. That is how we were taught as young people in our traditional forms of life. And that's why you find Kenyans are very welcoming to visitors. Very, very welcoming. But their kindness should not mistake you. You think that the kindness they show you, it is their weakness. My friend, you will be shocked. When a Kenyan turns against you, you will regret it. But they are very much calm. They are very welcoming people. They are very loving people. As long as you are also loving and peaceful, you do not interfere with their operations, you don't interfere with their country, they are okay with you. And that's why every African nationality, you come to Kenya, is like every African nationality is welcomed. Our neighbors, they are all over in this country, but nobody cares about them as long as they don't break the law. You know, they are our fellow brothers and sisters. Let them look for what they are looking for. If they are looking for ways on how to make two ends meet, so be it. That is okay. Because if they are in the country, they will eat, they will buy things from us, they will rent our houses, they will do this, you know, and our revenue increases, they pay taxes here. There's no problem. But the problem is when they start now exercising unbecoming behavior. That one now, for a Kenyan, we won't condone it. We will not accept that. We won't accept that. But this issue of discriminating people because of religion, this is just backwardness. You find two brothers discriminating each other, and yet they were born from the same mother. Just simply because one chose to be a Muslim, and now he feels like he's now different because he's a Muslim. You even discriminate your own mother just because you joined Islam yesterday. I have a problem with these people. There's a problem with this philosophy of Islam philosophy. I have a problem with it. I think it needs to be checked. Tell me what you think, wonderful brothers and sisters. My name is Brother Gabriel Mira. And please, for those who have not subscribed, I really want to encourage you to subscribe. Otherwise, thank you very much. God bless you. And see you next time.